Hey there, folks. Tim here. I hope everyone is doing good. All right. It's time for update number 3 on my writing retreat. And it's Friday afternoon. I'm doing a hike before I head out tomorrow morning to where I'm actually going to be doing the writing retreat, which is my hometown in northern Arizona. I'll tell you about that a little bit later in a future video. So by the time you're watching this, I'll be on my way up there Saturday morning. So for this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my creative process and a little bit of the stuff that leads up to me actually doing a writing retreat, because I think, like I said in my last video, I don't do these by random. I don't just randomly schedule a week one day and go, okay, I'm just going to write. There's a whole process that goes into preparing me for the amount of work that I'm going to do over the next week. And part of the reason I wanted to do this video series, if you will, this behind the scenes look, was I really wanted you all to get a good look at everything that goes into, at least for me, goes into my creative process. And, I saw this really great video this morning by Dan Levy. If you don't know who Dan Levy is, he's one of the writers, and he stars in Schitt's Creek. Really funny. He's a gay man. And whether you believe me or not, 9 times out of 10, anything amazing in this world involved a gay person. So, thank your gay friends. But he made this really great post about, the detrimental effect that social media has on, how it can skew your perception of people's creative processes. When you go on LinkedIn or any social media, but we'll talk about LinkedIn. When you go on LinkedIn, you see somebody's really amazing project, you see their portfolio, you're seeing the end result of their creative process. And you didn't actually see the creative process, and that can easily make you think or create this perception that, oh my gosh, look at that amazing thing they created. How easy was that for them? It came so easy to them, right? Because you didn't actually see all the blood, sweat, tears that led up to it. Hopefully I don't bleed on this trip, but there's been almost tears. There's sweats through my hikes. So I want you to see a little bit of that. So let me talk about my creative process. I mentioned in a previous video, it was my last video, how I'll often spend a lot of time just thinking about what I want to do before I actually pull the trigger and start doing it, And from the outside point of view, and even from my point of view, sometimes this process looks like procrastination, where I'm sitting and thinking about a thing before I actually execute on the thing. And, this book and this course that I'm going to be writing over the next week, even though I'm not physically writing it until, this week, it's been happening in my head for the past year or so. And one of the things that I talked about, I did a keynote for ATD last fall here in Phoenix. And one of the things I talked about was the power. I didn't say it explicitly because I thought it would be a little too woo-woo for people. Well, I'll say it explicitly to you. The power of manifesting what you want, and a part of the manifestation process means you have to visualize the thing that you're wanting to manifest, right? And so the way I explained it to this group of people is that my mind is like a holodeck. For any of you Star Trek fans out there, in Star Trek they have these things called holodecks where they can make anything a reality, right? And I oftentimes treat my mind like this holodeck where I'm constantly envisioning and playing out the thing that I'm wanting to do. And I envision it to such an extent that I can literally see it. Like, for example, the book that I want to write. I know what the cover is going to look like. I haven't actually designed it, but it's happened up here. I have a good sense of what the layout's going to look like. I haven't designed the layout, but I know what it's going to look like up here. I know what content I want to cover. I haven't written it. That'll happen this week. But I've been doing it up here for the last year and a half. And so, in that way, my creative process involves me sitting and thinking about the thing that I want to create. I'm not just thinking about it, I'm visualizing the thing I want to create. And I'm playing out different versions of it in my head until I find that version that really is like a North Star. And at some point, I can't tell you when, but at some point that thing that you're envisioning becomes so clear and so clear, the fidelity gets greater and greater and greater, that the only other thing you can do is to actually execute on the idea and create the thing. Because there's no more things that you can do in your brain. You just got to go do the fucking thing. And that's when I book my writing retreats. Until I've ran out of space in my head to think about it. So then I go do it. And that's how I book my writing retreats. And it's an exhausting process. You know, I don't know if that's true for anyone else, what I just described, but that process of envisioning the thing and then going and executing on it, it can be very tiring and it can be very emotionally draining. One of the things I was sharing with some folks close to me this past week, as I've been leading up to this, is how my creative process goes through these lows and these highs, usually right before the cusp of a writing retreat, before that cup of envisioning the thing gets full, right? I will go through this valley of despair, and I'll sit there, trying to get out of the sun there. I'll sit there and I question everything that I've been thinking about. And, you know, like for example, this week, the narrative in my brain was, does anyone even need this shit anymore? You know, do people need to understand the basics of instructional design and adult learning theory? Because, you know, you go on LinkedIn, you don't hear about that much anymore. All you hear about is AI and all that crap. I'm so sick of hearing about AI. I know a lot of you are too. It's okay to say that. Because it is still overinflated in terms of what it's going to offer us, but that's a separate debate for a separate day. But I was in this valley of despair. Going to do anyone need this shit anymore? Of course they need this stuff. I just got to be the one to create it. And so what will happen is I will keep writing, and eventually, you know, all of that work will get me out of that valley of despair, because it'll be a tangible vision, tangible thing that I can see on the computer screen or the paper of what it is that I'm wanting to create. So I share that all with you because the thing that I want you all to recognize is that people's creative processes are actually usually quite messy and unforgiving and very emotional. But you don't always see that when people share the pretty stuff on LinkedIn, or the finished project, or they put their big announcement up. You don't see all of the bullshit that they went through that led them to finally getting that thing done that they've been working on for months, sometimes years. And sometimes that creative process, you don't even see it because it's happening up in their brain. You know what I mean? last thing I want to share with you all, let me get my face back up here going. There we go. Last thing I want to share with you all is that you're going to see a lot more hiking from me during this writing retreat. Getting out and hiking is a big part of my creative process, and it's definitely a big part of my, usually when I do these writing retreats, you'd be amazed at all the issues that I've solved in my head and in my life by getting out and hiking, because it allows me to clear my brain, and it actually enables that envisioning process to actually happen. I know that sounds so crazy and woo-woo. It doesn't sound that crazy and woo to me because it's worked for me, but I know that's crazy for some people. Here's what I'll leave you with. I'll leave you all because I'm out of breath here. You know, I'm going to reference another gay thing. Growing up, I don't know how my mom didn't know I was gay. I loved Dolly Parton growing up. Like, I wanted a coat of many colors growing up. And there's a great Dolly Parton quote where she talks about the differences between wishes and dreams. A lot of us have wishes. We wish for things to happen to us. And wishes just happen, you know what I mean? The difference between dreams and wishes is that a dream is something that you work for. It's something that you actually have to take action on. And so when I talk about, manifestation and visualization, you can sit there and think about it all day long and envision, but it only happens when you actually take action on it. And so really what you're doing when you're envisioning something in your brain and in your soul is that you're literally reverse engineering the thing that you want to have happen so you can figure out how to get there. And for me, that means envisioning the book that I'm writing, the course that I'm creating, the business decision I'm making. I am envisioning the final product and reverse engineering what has to happen in order for me to get there. Because that ultimately, guides the path there. So, I don't know. I want you all to put that in your pipe and smoke it. And then let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I'll give you guys an update once I'm in Prescott. And we'll go from there. All right, bye.